Australia's population growth has been historically fueled by migration. With a population of over 23 million, its cultural diversity is booming at an ever expanding rate, creating an exciting mix of people from all over the world. On top of the millions of residents who speak languages other than English, another 100,000 immigrants from non English speaking countries arrive here every year, creating a large, dynamic, and thriving ethnic market which has become apparent. These migrants spend billions of dollars on entertainment, education, shopping, and housing in Australia. Pino Melgarino is the founder of Cultural Perspectives, which is a leading consultancy providing strategic marketing and research services to government and private sector organizations since 1994. He is an expert in multicultural communications, research, and the broader area of multicultural policy.
There's been minimal migration from Italy and Greece. There are a number of, say, working holiday makers or younger people on 457 visas from those countries, but they're not the mainstay of our migration. The mainstay of our migration is Chinese and Indian. Indian is Hindi is the fastest growing language group in Australia over the last census period from 2011 to 2016. The Chinese community is the single largest ethnic community in Australia. The Cantonese Mandarin speakers just in New South Wales total more than 500,000. So these are really significant communities. In a population of 22 million, if I can say 500,000 of those are ethnic Chinese, that is really significant.
The common link in each ethnic community is their media. Ethnic media helps the migrants with settlement, with over 300 publications and over 20 radio stations broadcasted in over 60 languages. Migrants have plenty of choice to pick their sources of media to get information. Aarti Banga is the owner and editor-in-chief of Desi Australia. Desi Australia is an online magazine which caters to Indians and others from Indian subcontinents in Australia.
Our target audience ranges between 18 to 50 years of age, and we cover a lot of different kind of articles. We have different pages which are of interest to different age groups. May it be lifestyle, fashion, beauty, movies. That's life, in which we have yoga and a lot of health guidelines that we share with our readers. We do have a lot of recipes that we share every week. Then we have Desi TV Australia, which is a part of desi.com.au, and we cover a lot of local events.
Most migrants bring in diverse cultures and languages. It can be challenging for them to understand Australian culture and might even experience a language barrier. Therefore, most of these migrants feel more secure in their communities where they have a common bond of language and culture.
Well, the Press Council has indicated that it's interested in providing coverage for the ethnic media, and the ethnic media in Australia is composed of the press, many language press that we have. It's also composed of community radio and other areas, but the Press Council itself would be concerned with and wants to actually include those many number of titles from ethnic communities. So that's really interesting because it's the first time that they've actually outreached to this media, and this media's been around for literally decades and decades.
Yeah, I watch Australian television, but not that much.
Rajvi Panchal is an engineering student at the University of Technology, Sydney. She moved to Sydney from India a year ago. While Rajvi keeps herself up to date regularly by watching Australian news and television, her main source of information still remains Indian news channels and Indian media.
Very important to create a sense of belonging and a sense of information and the ability to participate. I need to know that I have to vote at a certain day. I need to know that there is a benefit there for me. I need to know that the government's initiative on a road program might go through my suburb. And those things that need to know are better delivered through a media which is successful.
I do believe that ethnic media is very important to keep the people in touch with their homeland, because the mainstream media doesn't cover all the events or all the news in detail what we do. So with the mainstream media, people can get to know more about the Australian affairs or the world news, but if they want to know deep and more in detail about what's happening with their own homeland or home country, ethnic media will be definitely the option.
Because of the feel that I get from them, it's different because we are born and brought up in that field. I know, but yeah, it would be very nice if we have some Indian news channels, and like many of the parents are here of the students or any of the persons, so they can enjoy that, because for them it's very difficult to get it.
Like many Indians in Sydney, Rajvi lives in a highly populated Indian area, and most of her friends are Indians. This, and along with the lack of knowledge about what's happening in and around them, this could separate Rajvi and many like her from the Australian community.
Most of my friends are Indian, obviously, because and I'm living in Harris Park, which is, we can see, a small India in Sydney. I don't feel much difference staying here and staying in India, because it feels like India only. It has the restaurants and people around us talk in the language that we use, and yeah, it feels nice there.
We have an office set up in India, and we have a couple of people, journalists in India, who collect the information from India, and then we have a little office in Sydney, and we have few people working for us on a casual basis, and we try and cover the local events and local news. We have photographers, video editors, journalists, anchors, so who all work on casual basis with us.
They're dangerous if they're not supported by parallel media consumption from some Australian source. So the reality is, I will speak to someone in the Italian community and I'll say, "Did you hear about?" And they'll talk about a murder, and I'll say, "What, around Sydney?" And they no, in Palermo or in a city in Italy. And I go, "Okay." What we've done is create a relevant news for them, relevant to a home country, but they will not know, or might not know, the fact that we will be switching time zones, or switching the to daylight saving, or practical things like that. So then you have to say, what can we do to ensure that we maintain a media here which speaks to them and actually keeps them informed? Because without that information, you'd have to question how much they can actually be citizens of Australia.
Warning Sun is a professor of media and communication studies in the University of Technology, Sydney. Warning researches and supervises research students in Chinese media and communication. She has also published books on Chinese migration and has edited books such as Media and Communication in the Chinese Diaspora.
Chinese community media, or what sometimes is referred to as the ethnic media, are the Chinese language media that serves the cohort of migrants who do not necessarily read and write in English, or do not understand English. So they will read the Chinese newspapers, and hear Chinese radio, and watch Chinese television, in order to do a number of things. First, they get to find out what Australian policies are like, policies, particularly the policies that relate to them. And secondly, they get to find out what news and current affairs from their motherland, the countries from which they migrate, right? And also, they may also want to find out the Chinese communities like themselves, who are actually living elsewhere in other countries, but also are migrants.
Australian media needs to accept the migrants and all of their cultural diversity by involving them more and more in the regular media content.
The responsibility lies with a lot of people in this issue, in this area. We need the education institutions to actually make sure that the way they're training journalists actually are cognizant of diversity. We need the people who are making decisions in terms of how we actually see ourselves to be cognizant of diversity. We need the advertisers, especially those who frame how we see ourselves, and the advertising companies and the ads to be more diverse themselves. We are being given ads which are developed by people in Australia who are from England or from South Africa, and who have no experience of Australia, who probably haven't been past Leichhardt, and would not know what an Auburn looked like, or a Seven Hills would look like, or a Cabramatta would look like. What is the Australia that they are interpreting when they put those ads together? It's very much this narrow frame of monocultural white blonde Anglo background, and we've got a long way to go to break that.
We've come to start a new life. We have come here to be free. And we have come from north and south. Across the skies we've flown. From all the nations of the world to a nation we call home. To a nation we call home.
Channel O. A whole world